Good afternoon, everybody. So, we are a couple of days after the Israeli elections. I think, the last time I checked, all of the votes were counted, and it looks like the right-wing coalition that Bibi is attempting to form does not have enough seats as of now. And it's interesting, the more I go along here, just in life, the more I realize that Hashem is doing everything very precisely. And everything is hashgacha pratis, hashgacha pratit. Everything is orchestrated, everything is perfect timing. And, it's very fitting that this election is right before Pesach. Because what is really the theme of Pesach? The theme of Pesach is, we get rid of our Chametz. And what does Chametz represent? Chametz represents the inflated human ego. We are basically deflating our egos for about a week. We are getting rid of all of our Chametz, our all the yeast, the products of yeast that rise and inflate and give you the illusion that something, in this particular case, bread, is bigger than it actually is. And how does this relate to the recent Israeli elections, my friends? It relates in a very, very simple way. We have a situation where there are a few candidates who got into the Knesset, who got enough votes. I think two of them are right-wing, and basically one of them declared, and has been declaring, that he will not sit with Bibi in a coalition. He left Bibi's party, he left Likud, and he's been, yelling from the mountaintops that he will not sit with Bibi in a coalition no matter what. Even maybe to his own detriment, he will not sit with Bibi in a coalition. That man's name is Gideon Sar. So now, my friends, I'll tell you, Gideon Sar made a lot of mistakes during his campaign, and he put himself in a little bit of a pickle. And Gideon Sar now is in a lose-lose situation, meaning he's got about 6 seats. He didn't do so well in the campaigning. People thought he was going to get at least 10 seats or 15 seats or whatever it is. And he stunk it up, and he got 6 seats. So now he's in a lose-lose situation. Either he's going to stick to his guns and he's going to say, I'm not joining, this right-wing coalition, and I'm just going to stay in the opposition and I'm going to work from there. Or he's going to say, well, okay, I'm going to join Bibi and I'm going to ask for, the Ministry of Education, let's say, and 3 other ministries, and basically flip-flop on what I just said 24 hours ago to the entire world, or to at least all of Israel. So, my friends, in order for him to do the second thing that I just mentioned, he has to get rid of what's called his ego. He has to temporarily shelve his ego, squash his ego, squash the beef, the personal beef that he has with Bibi, and he has to do, what's good for the country, really, not for his party, quote unquote, which really is a break-off thing from Likud. It's basically Likud minus Bibi with a couple of people, much smaller, and he has to deflate his ego temporarily in order to actually help himself in the long term. In the short term, it's going to look bad. Yes, it will look bad. But it's one of those things, and I was just speaking to Rabbi Kessin about this, and he agreed, there's like a small loss, and there's like a big loss. The big loss is he's going to sit in the opposition, which is basically a graveyard, and he's going to join the left, which is dying, and that's basically it. And he may even resurrect the left via this action. Or he can squash his ego, he can sit with Bibi, and he can get a lot of things done. And him and Bennett can come to Bibi and they can say, listen, man, you're fantastic at foreign policy. You're fantastic at fending off the Biden, Obama, Soros, whatever, triumvirate of death. Okay, that's great. You go do that, and we'll do domestic policy. We'll do education. We'll do health. We'll do economics. We'll do all these things. That's what we're gonna do. And Bibi will give that to them to a very large extent because he wants to be the prime minister. He wants to stay in power, and that'll be fine. That'll work. But in order for that to even happen, the man by the name of Gideon Sar has to look in the mirror and say, it's Pesach. I'm going to squash my ego. I'm going to do for what's good of the country. But I'll tell you, friends, if he doesn't do that, if he doesn't squash his ego, if he hardens his heart like Pharaoh did, then we have a situation where Bibi will not form a coalition, right? He won't form a coalition. And then what will happen is probably Gantz will get in, or we're going to have a fifth election, and then Gantz will get in, and Gantz will be able to, because that was in the deal, in the last deal. Gantz, if they don't form a coalition, I believe, then Gantz ends up being the interim prime minister, and then Gantz and all these other people together, the lefties, can they can pass laws, what is it called, against Bibi, and basically banning Bibi from running, because he has a court case. Any prime minister in court, they can just come to Mandelblit and say, let's do this, let's create this law, and that's it, and Bibi's out. So maybe Sar is thinking that could be the case, but the thing is, my friends, that's yet more time. If you're talking about October or November in the next election, more time that passes, that we have this kind of just, neutered government. That's basically what we're going to have. We're not going to be able to move forward as a country. And it would all be because a man by the name of Gideon Sar, who made many mistakes in his campaign, he really did, against the advice of people whose advice he sought, which is insane. And he's not able to squash his ego, his beef. He wants to go it alone, or sit in the opposition with people like Lapid and others, and basically accomplish next to nothing except for screaming from the mountaintops what his kind of stances are. Okay, that's wonderful to sit and scream from the mountaintops what your opinions are and what your stances are, but it doesn't accomplish much of anything. It really doesn't, unless you sit in committees. Unless you have ministries, and you can really get in the kishkas of, the government and all these mechanisms, and really make changes, real changes, and he's not going to be able to do that unless he does what you're supposed to do on Pesach, my friends, which is to squash your ego and realize what's better for the country, not what's better for your party, that you just created 2 seconds ago. My friends, that's really what it's all about. It's about Eretz Israel. It's about, the land of Israel. It's about the people of Israel. That's really what it's all about. It's not about Bibi, and it's not about any of these other things. And this is something that we hope, my friends, that Gideon Sar will come to his senses and realize. And again, we wish he didn't have to do this, because ultimately, he's the one that was, that campaigned improperly, and he was supposed to get at least double the amount of seats that he got, or maybe even triple. Actually, technically, there was a lot of people that were saying that had he campaigned as himself, will the real Sar please stand up, he would have taken votes from Lapid, and even Bennett, and even Otzma, and even Bibi. He would have won the most seats. He would have been the prime minister. But he didn't do that. He went against the advice of people that previously gave him advice. I don't know who he had on his team. And, even now, I spoke to some people close to Sar with knowledge, and they said, listen, there are people giving him advice to hold out for some sort of gambit, for some sort of, tandem prime ministership with Bennett, or some sort of combina with Lapid and Gantz and other people and Lieberman. All these kind of balagan, circus freaks situations, and that's what he's holding out for, instead of just coming and saying, listen, let's just do this. I know I said I'm not going to sit, but you know what? Let's just do this. Give me, he can come and say, just give me like 4 ministries. Or he can come with Bennett and say, give us 2 ministries each. And we're just going to rock it. We're going to do domestic policy. And you can do the foreign policy. And you're great at that. We're going to fix here in Israel. You can go and battle Biden and Obama and Soros and Iran and the Palestinians and Gaza and all these wonderful things. Hezbollah, Putin. There's a lot of things to do. There's a lot of things for Bibi can do. Just externally. He's really good at that. That's it. That's it, my friends. So the question remains, will the man by the name of Gideon Sar, who could have been the prime minister, squash his ego? And will other people squash their giant egos on this Pesach to do the right thing for the land of Israel, for Eretz Israel? Let's hope. We should only hope, my friends. All right, guys. Have a Chag Sameach if I don't speak to you, and let's see what happens.